Hello, welcome to Box Board. Tonight we are going to have part 2 of our bestiary. So the first up is the Night Raven. We had wandered towards the shelter after the hymns of the midnight mass had gone quiet. The village priest of Belinge claimed to have heard the horrifying shrieks beyond the snow-laden field to the east. But the mutilated bodies were not found until the sun finally dawned after the thick snowfall on Christmas Day, revealing the widow Eglius and her 3 children in a gruesome sludge of blood and night-black feathers. Landlord Fritjof Eglius, wretched and subdued, is said to have taken his own life to escape his harsh wife. Now, in the undead form of a wicked bird, it seems he has had his revenge. Now, night ravens are basically damned spirits of suicides and criminals buried in unholy ground. They may have been banished by Church Grim from the northern part of the graveyard. They're raven-like creatures. Their shape can shift around, transform. They are very elusive. They've got oily. They're made of oily smoke and scruffy feathers, glowing eyes, and beaks full of razor-sharp teeth. They fly close to the ground at night. Always at night, and they gather in flocks during major holidays, and they basically hide during the day. They are interesting and quite feisty. They're quite a challenge. Next up is the Nisa, the master. Oh, let's see if we can get it to work. The master of the farm in Normaling, where we have been staying, offered us buttermilk and flatbread. He said the cherry trees by the well rarely bear fruit, yet they cannot cut them down, as the farmstead Nisa regards their berries as his property. The other day, a farm hand pissed in the barn where the Nisa had made its home. The following night, a calf was born whose legs, tail, and head had all been switched by the vengeful Nisa. I asked the master to show me the animal. He obliged and dug up a stillborn calf with a deformed body. So basically, some farms have got these farmstead Nisa. The Nisa want what's best for the farm, and they usually ignore the people there. They're not really interested in them. But he will help. They can help with farm work. They often have got a favorite horse, and they will braid the mane in a way that's very hard to undo. They look like old men with long beards, shabby grey clothes, and red hats. They're grumpy, vindictive, and very proud. They will scold lazy farmhands and maids with a hard smack in the face. They expect offerings from the household, like porridge. And there have been cases where they have mistaken the kindness of farmer's wife for something more and tried to take the farmer's place. They can turn into animals like toads or cats. They're extremely strong, a lot more than they actually appear from just the way they look, but they are very strong. Yeah, that's the Nisa. Now, Revenants. As I write this, I am alone in the mountains. My companion is dead, and I am at my wit's end. The 2 of us were heading for a goatee outside the foundry, and we were late. It was midnight, although the sun still shone upon the earth. My fellow traveller pushed rapidly ahead. I came across a plant previously unknown to me. I picked it and named it Andromeda. When I looked up, my companion was gone. I hurried after him and eventually entering the goatee. My companion lay dead before me, his face frozen in a dreadful grimace. Something emerged from the shadows. I screamed and ran. Now here I am, the pen shaking in my hand. Where my pack is, I do not know. Revenants are the undead spirit of evil humans. They are full of hatred for mankind and have got an urge to frighten, harm, and kill. They are nasty. Usually they want to torment their family or other people that they used to loathe while they were still human. They are usually invisible but can appear as monstrous figures with sharp teeth and claws. They are incredibly vengeful. Sometimes they are black as night and several meters tall. They suck the life out of people. But they're also known to eat humans alive. They will generally make a lair in a tree, a pile of rocks, or ruin near the place of their death, where they must stay until nightfall. So they're much more active at night. The Sea Serpent. The stevedores at the port of Varberg spoke of many sailors meeting their end in the maw of the Sea Serpent. They said it dwells deep in the murky waters outside Lasso. I readily admit that these horror stories disturbed me as we were set to board the wet deck of the schooner in the morning. But my journey to Amsterdam and the Tulip Kingdom could not wait. I can only hope that this sea serpent and its grisly deeds, like the fabled existence of the great lake monsters, are but stories from the thirsty throats of drunken travellers. Unfortunately, they're not. They're strange creatures that hide in dark waters. They live in caves and crevices around coasts and fjords, and beneath windswept islands or in the depths of mountain lakes. As long as there have been humans in the north, there have been stories about these creatures. They are intelligent, and they are huge. They are born out of magic, and they can enthrall an entire crew with their hypnotic gaze. They can break masts, sink ships just because they're so big and so strong. And they are powerful. They are powerful, powerful things. Yeah. Next, the Spertus. I love the Spertus. One of the hunters in Tarfjorden showed me the dried deer bladders they would blow up, fill with liquor, and carry with them. He wanted to show me something else as well, which he said was the secret to his wealth and success. In his snuff box lay a small beetle of an unknown species. It turned out to be alive, twisting and turning like a housewife on a feather bed, until the hunter gave it a good spit. Then it sprouted limbs, with which I was not familiar. The man quickly put the lid back on. He would not sell me the creature, claiming it was worth more than all the gold of the mountain trolls. These are magical beings that look like little bugs, or sometimes like a small white snake or worm. They're said to be in league with Satan himself, and they can use their powers to give humans wealth, love, and success. The most common way to obtain them is to go fishing in a brook with a human leg as bait, or keep a chicken egg in one's armpit until it hatches. The spurtus will then usually live in a snuff box and needs to be fed every day with human spit. If you forget, its vengeance will be terrible. Sooner or later, the creature will take control of its owner, unless it is sold or given away, but it can only be passed on twice. The third person to accept it will never be rid of it, and the spurtus will assume control of its owner. They are awesome. Sorry, they're one of my favourites. Then we've got the neck. Now, the neck is a funny one. It's a weird thing. I'm sitting in a meadow, a cup of liquor in my hand, writing about a strange encounter. The people of Tornia complained about pestilence killing the cattle as they were put out to pasture after the winter. The meadow is where they graze, not far from the river. I managed to identify the cause of their death. Vast quantities of Circateria agotica grow in this place. I asked myself aloud why this plant was so abundant, and was answered by the sound of a flute. There was a man perched on a rock in the stream. He had the eyes of a goat, with black horns on his forehead. As I approached the man, he dove into the water. The tunes of his flute lingered in the air, and new sprouts of Circateria sprung up all over the bank. The neck is a musician that lives in brooks, rivers, and lakes. He's got the shape of a man, young or old. He'll have peculiar characteristics. He will play a fiddle, a flute, or a harp, or a harp. His melodies are beautiful, melancholic, and captivating. Those who listen cannot stop dancing. The neck will lure people into water and drown them. Some say he's lonely, and he draws people into his underwater realm to enjoy their company, and he forgets that they can't live without air. Maybe he's just wicked. There's only one neck. He has no other name. He can be found all over Scandinavia, occasionally at the same time, but it's still the same creature. Now here's where it gets interesting. He can teach people to play magic melodies if he is given a black cat in return. But sometimes those who play his music are unable to stop, and they'll cause people, tables, and chairs to dance until their bodies and table legs are worn down to bloody stumps, and the musicians themselves have lost their fingers. He's kind of awesome. Trolls. The strangest wedding I ever attended was here in Vasterbotten. Inside the cabin, which was not very spacious, the tables were set not only for human guests, but also the mountain trolls, relatives of the groom, brought dried meat and cheese. His mother and father had everyone drinking liquor from a jar. As the guests shook hands with each other, many drinks were poured onto the ground for the lady of the mountain. I was told the trolls had come to visit, invisible to human eyes. They were described as old men, bearded and grey. Apparently their gifts were greater than those of humans, not given during daytime, but placed around the sleeping bride and groom. I remember nothing else, either from the explanation or the wedding feast, as the schnapps flowed too freely. My head is throbbing, and I dread the light of day. Now, trolls live in communities in mountains and hills. They brew beer, keep livestock, get married, and have their own traditions. They hate anything to do with Christianity, but they will sometimes exchange favours and tools with humans. Forest trolls have got long beards, tails, and large noses. They can look a lot like humans, and are sometimes even beautiful. There's always some detail that gives them away. Mountain trolls are related to giants. They are huge and hideous with tusks, large ears, warty skin, or multiple arms or legs. Some trolls will steal things from people's farms and might even kidnap the humans themselves. The abducted will be offered enchanted food that looks delicious, but it's actually slugs and frogs, and if you eat it, you become bound to them. There have been cases where the trolls have snatched a baby from its cradle and left a changeling instead. Vater. The morning I left Reverend Saunders' home in Patea with my gift stuffed into my satchel, it was given to me by a Vaesen no bigger than my forearm, a rat-like creature with 2 legs who addressed me by name as I was trying to sleep. The creature begged me to move a water barrel that had been placed in the corridor outside the kitchen. I did what I asked, and found that the barrel was blocking a hole in the floor. A tiny creature popped out, smiling at me with its froggish face, and tipped its hat. Next morning I found my gift, a beautiful troll drum wrapped in birch leaves upon my blanket. No Vaesen live closer to the humans than the Vater, who are also the easiest to get along with. They live in colonies, underneath tables, fireplaces, or in underground passages. A household ought to warn them before pouring hot water on the ground or moving any buildings. They are small as rats, dressed in black or grey clothes with the appearance that resembles small animals such as toads, mice, or hedgehogs. Humans kind enough to help them can be rewarded with leaves of gold or magic items, but the Vater can also be vengeful and spreading diseases or burning down the farm. So you have to be careful around these ones. Now, werewolves. Now, these are ones that we're familiar with from Hollywood, but they are different in this game, so be careful. Officer Cock of the county police met us on the other side of Lake Verjar. I can't say. Before we had even climbed out of the boat, he came up to us through the thick fog, asking if we had seen a man dressed in wolf pelts with blood all over his body. Some stranger had run amok, slaughtering a maid and ripping out her heart. We knew nothing and told him so. He asked that we keep our eyes open. That night we heard the howls of wolves echoing through the woods and across the lake. Werewolves are shapeshifters, a human that can transform into a wolf or a bear. There are 3 ways to create one. A human can turn into one through a curse from a Vaesen or a wizard. A baby might become a shapeshifter if the mother's pain is relieved, and childbirth is relieved through magic. And the 3rd way is that somebody learned magic to willingly transform themselves into one. They are strong and they are bloodthirsty. Some will only transform when the moon is full, others when they feel emotional. A very few, can actually choose when to transform. They can choose whether or not to be invisible to humans, but many werewolves are driven by the urge to stalk and frighten their prey, and they prefer to be seen during the hunt. But they are different to the... they are slightly different to what you see in the movies. So just be aware of that. So there's a lot more stuff that is in the book that I'm not going through with you, purely because that'll be a spoiler, and this isn't a spoiler. This is a primer. So there you go. Right, one of my favourites, will-o'-the-wisp. Bright green fir trees were everywhere as we left Lamea in the early hours of the morning. We made a short stop and found bog rosemary in full bloom. Soon the mist came creeping down from the mountain. My companion alerted me to a green light among the trees. I felt a sudden urge to follow its glow, which seemed to be moving deeper into the forest. The interpreter advised against it. When I persisted, he grabbed me hard by the coat until the light had vanished. I grew angry, calling him a muck-eater and a smell fungus. Now I regret my words, wondering whether he somehow saved me from a tragic fate. So a person who cheats somebody out of a piece of property might one day return from the dead as a will-o'-the-wisp. It is doomed. This spirit is doomed to walk the boundary of his stolen land, moving the sticks to market. They are a small creature dressed in green or grey who carries a lantern with a strange glow. Some will-o'-the-wisps will use that light to lead people astray, luring them into marshes and causing them to drown. Others are kind and will help people find their way home. The Woodwife. The woods are composed of grey alders and birches with witches' brooms. My horse collapsed several times during today's trip through Angermanland. On one occasion, I sustained a fracture. In the glow of the fire, I now write of a sight that took my mind off the pain. Encamped for the night, I emptied my bladder near a brook, when suddenly I saw 3 moose, one white, one brown, and one black, crowned with magnificent antlers. On the back of the white one rode a woman with antlers on her forehead. She was beautiful, with fair skin, green eyes. I could see from her look we had permission to visit the forest. Now, the Woodwife is part of the forest, and she's its guardian. She appears as a human woman, but can also take the form of a tree, a rock, or an animal. There's always something strange about her that gives her away. She's often accompanied and protected by animals. She's capricious. Humans who harm the animals of the forest might be subject to punishment. Her victims are spellbound or led astray, wandering aimlessly until they go mad, fall ill, or grow old. But she can also be kind and can help lost children find their way home or warn of forest fire. It's said that the Woodwife seduces people. Once they fall in love with her, they will never be the same again. All that remains is a yearning for the forest and solitude. Some say that people have had children with her, and they've grown strong and powerful. She's an interesting character, so she's the guardian of the forest. With all of these, just be aware they all have got characteristics. They all have got abilities in combat, magical powers, and conditions that they can inflict. They also have got conditions that they can take and things that can happen during that. They also have got secrets that can be used against them, and they've also got rituals that can be used to dispel them. And also, one of the key things about Vaesen in the game is if you get rid of them by force, don't worry, the GM will roll a dice and they will come back again. You have to dispel them using a ritual to get rid of them once and for all. So that is our Vaesen. And they are a really interesting bunch. There's 21 in total, and there's a few more in one of the other bit, and in a Wicket secret. But there's also rules for making up your own, so your GM may do that. But those are the 21 that are mentioned in the core rule book. I hope that's been helpful, and I hope you find it interesting, and it gives you a sort of background to what's going on. But there are things in the book that we're deliberately not mentioning, so there's no spoilers. It's just to give you a flavour of what is out there, and these would be things that would be known to your party in advance, I would imagine. Okay, thank you for watching. Have a lovely evening, and we do a lot of content for Vaesen, and if you'd like to not miss any of it, the best way to do that is to subscribe to the channel, and hopefully it'll be useful, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. Have a lovely day, and bye-bye.